Welcome everyone to the Connex Emerge Town Hall. It's our next installment of this series, and we are very pleased to have with us today our guest moderator, a lead green associate, FMA and RFMP Senior Territory Facility Manager for Nike. Please welcome Sean Browning. Sean?
Hello, everyone out there in virtual Connex land. Hope everyone is happy and healthy. And we got one great town hall for you guys. Some amazing panelists. So let's start with the introductions. First up, Steve Heron, President of Brand Point Services. Steve.
Well, thanks, Sean. I am Steve Heron, President of Brand Point Services. As Sean says, if you're not familiar with Brand Point, we are a national general contractor providing facility maintenance and construction services in the US and Canada. And I've been serving as president at Brand Point since 2012. We're based in Philadelphia suburbs. We have an office on one side of the Delaware River in New Jersey and the other side of the Delaware River in Trooper, Pennsylvania, right outside of King of Prussia. And I'm very pleased to be asked to be part of this panel.
Excellent. Thank you so much for joining us.
My
Next
pleasure.
up, we have Mandy Renahan, CEO and founder of Freshco.
Not the grocery store. Get that right, Sean. Not the grocery store. I just seen another grocery store open up as Fresh. So Mandy Renahan, I was here first, just so everybody knows. Mandy Renahan, founder and CEO of Freshco.ca, not the grocery store. And we also are, I was the first one to develop at our big O Canada land, a 24/7 maintenance regime and one point of contact. We are also a big pioneer in the project management part of facilities. We have a head office in Rhode Island and our big US of A in New England. And our other head office is in Toronto, where it's really, really hot right now. Very happy to be here. And if you guys don't all know, they bring me on these panels so that, you know what, I keep everybody in line.
And we thank you for that, Mandy. All right, team. Next, we have Pat Bacigalupo from Director of Store Maintenance for The Gap.
Thanks, Sean. Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Pat Bacigalupo, Director of Store Maintenance for Gap Inc. Gap Inc. includes Gap, Banana Republic, Old Navy, Athleta, Intermix, and Janie and Jack stores. I oversee a team of 28 people, and we're responsible for 2,800 stores across US, Canada, and Mexico.
Excellent. Thank you for joining us, Pat.
Thank you.
Okay, and last but never least is Sean Coakley, Director of Facilities for Weight Watchers.
Thanks, Sean. Hi, everybody. Sean Coakley. I'm the Director of Facilities at Weight Watchers. I oversee our portfolio in the US. I do dabble in Canada occasionally, Mandy. So hopefully we'll run into each other up there. I guess our portfolio is about 750 studios right now, with a few corporate or call center buildings sprinkled across the country. I've been an active member at Connex, I think it's 10 years now, and really happy to be participating in the call.
Excellent. We're so glad to have you. Thank you. Okay, team, to kind of give you a brief run of show, if you have not joined a town hall before, we encourage you to submit your questions for the panelists at your Q&A button located at the bottom of the screen, and submit your questions. If it's for one of the specific brilliant panelists we have here, please make sure to specify their name just before the question. If there are no questions, don't worry about it. We got some questions queued up here that we can get the ball rolling. Okay, so on that note, we will start with a general question being, how are you different pre-pandemic to now on a personal and professional standpoint? We'll kick that off with Steve.
Thanks, Sean. I will probably speak for many on this call to say quite different. I travel a heck of a lot less. You know, my travel has been reduced from 70% to probably 10%. And that includes travel for leisure. Vacations have become staycations, annual trips have changed or been adjusted. On a personal level, I coach travel softball. I'm a commissioner of a recreational softball program, and that, has been canceled, then revived, then chaotic. And now, very, very specific steps have been taken to try to keep children safe, but get them outside after being trapped inside in many cases for months and months. On a business level, the biggest thing I would point to is when probably everybody on this call used to plan 2 months out, 6 months out, a year out, 18 months out. My planning now goes 2 weeks out, and I'm prepared to constantly adjust that plan and pivot and go another direction, because every time somebody convinced me they had it all figured out what was going to happen, it turned out to not be the case. And I've also learned to admit I'm wrong a lot, because every time I think I know what's going to happen, the next day the news convinces me otherwise. So it's been quite different, as I'm sure all of you have experienced.
That's a great point. Yeah, at Nike, we have been highly encouraged to have soft knees. Bend and flex, bend and flex. Yeah. All right. Same question for you, Mandy.
Well, I have to share, Steve and I have a lot of similarities also. I used to travel a lot with work. And the other thing I used to do was travel a lot in the US and all throughout Canada, as I'm a big brand ambassador for the skilled trades. So I think I mentioned on a call once how awkward it is trying to motivate people through a lens. So even being me. So that's very much been different. However, what we've seen too is that, throughout this pandemic, we've needed just as many skilled trades professionals as we needed before the pandemic hit. So we were definitely one of the companies that were able to stand up and help the 93 coming out of Buffalo up through Canada with mobile washrooms that were clean and dignified for truck drivers and technicians, because everybody decided to shut them down. So that was just bad. So these are the different things that you're starting to see in our business that we're like, wow, you know what, we were glad that we were in the industry and we had these types of assets so that we could help and just stay true to our brand. On a personal level, if anybody knows me, I wake up like this every day, pandemic or no pandemic. So I'm just grateful that I rolled out of bed this morning, as per always. And I really am trying to see the opportunities in this. As like I said, as a business owner, it's been tough, but this is our time to really show our creativity, show what we have, and more so than anything, people obviously ordered puppies that they didn't want, so my partner and I took them. So I'm a new furry parent. So in the end, so that would be my big personal difference going into this. But other than that, I'm still just me.
Love it. Love it. We would have you no other way, my friend.
Yeah.
All right. Same question for you, Pat.
Yeah, I think professionally, really a true test of leadership. I thought we were thought I was even a sort of nimble, flexible person, but just dealing with, reduction in workforce, furloughed team members, the skeleton crew that was still overseeing the stores, really managing people differently and learning to be more flexible, more compassionate, and sort of being open to a lot of forgiveness. And so, in a positive way, it was definitely a growth experience personally. Frankly, it was sort of head down in work. So sort of that realization that there is a little bit of need for self-care there. Sometimes you do just really need to step away and take a breath. And certainly, like Steve and Mandy, used to both personally and professionally traveling quite a bit. So learning to deal with, being at home and all that comes with that.
Very well put, Pat, very well put. Okay. And next up, same question for you, Sean.
Well, I guess you've all sort of said the same things that I wanted to say. I think there's a common thread between personal and professional, and that I find I have to do a better job of listening and trying to understand if I'm talking to someone either in my family or at work who's not, acting or doing what they would normally do, to stop and think, well, maybe they've just got something going on that normally, they wouldn't be dealing with. Maybe it's that they can't get out of their house and they've got 4 kids and they're on top of each other and want to kill each other and they're losing their mind. We're all, the way we deal with this manifests itself in different ways. So I try to be much more, cognizant of that, and to listen more, maybe start calls with just, hey, how you doing kind of thing. And before you jump right into the business.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that information. Very, very helpful. And so we have one question up here. So this is for the retailers. So Sean and Pat, and kind of stemming off of what Steve said regarding strategic thinking. How much time are retail leaders spending on long-term planning for 2021 versus the short-term or reactionary issues relating to the effects of COVID? Great question, Joe. Sean, let's start with you first.
I think in the short term, it's more about what are we doing like right now. I know, recently we opened 400 studios. I think it was almost 2 weeks ago. We're targeting another 150 or so for next week. But 6 weeks ago, it was only going to be 100. And then, a month after that, another 100. And then on a turn of a dime, it was, no, we want to do 400. So I'm having conversations about next year and things that I want to do, but it's not like I would normally have it. Like Steve said earlier, I'm not planning out 6, 12, 18 months. It's because I don't know what it's going to be. So it's much more in the here and now, in the next, 2 to 4 weeks. What are we doing kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
similar. I think, basically March through probably first 2 weeks of June, it really was all about the here and now and just trying to get the stores open. The past few weeks, we are starting to pick our heads up and trying to look forward really at back half and even planning for 2021. But it's not our usual cadence or process for 2021. It's here's the blueprint, but we have to be flexible to change on a dime in many different facets when we're looking at 2021. So looking at it, but sort of a different lens at this point, or many different lenses.
Yes. Yeah, same for us here at Nike too. We're actually planning this week and working on a 6-month strat plan for this year. We're taking it 6-month bites to see, because as we all know, processes are going to be changing as we progress through this. The processes are already changing, of course, but they're going to continue to change as we progress. So great information there. Okay, so while we wait for more questions, let's look at some of the questions we have queued up for you guys. All right, so this will be for all panelists. Share some positives from the past few weeks, if there are any, that you've experienced. Steve, let's start with you.
So let me start. I will answer that question, Sean, but I do want to add one other thing on the last topic, if that's okay.
Absolutely.
And I know Mandy can relate to this. I used to lay awake at night fairly often, worried about job site safety. Both Mandy and I have hundreds, if not thousands, of job sites going on at any given time. And I used to worry about ladders and electricity. Those are the things that could ruin everything for everybody, right? If something bad happened on a job site. And that was job site safety, job site safety. Job site safety is taking on a whole new meaning for us now. So now we're thinking about, we got to keep our teams safe and our technicians safe. We have to keep the employees that we may be working around safe. We have to keep the customers that are coming into stores safe, and things that we never really thought about before March 15th, of this year, and has become top of mind. So that, that's been a real change as well. And I'm starting to become convinced that might be a permanent change. For a while we were talking about when are we going to get back to normal. This maybe is normal for all we know at this point, for the foreseeable future. Now, on the flip of that, positives, there have been some positives, and I really work hard to try to keep my team focused on, let's count our blessings. We're still here. We're still here. We're still working. There's business out there. You heard what Mandy said, what she did up between Buffalo and the dignified places to go to the bathroom for truckers. That's no small thing, because truckers are still moving product and moving equipment and moving things that the world needs. And there's business out there to be done. We have been very fortunate to still stay busy. And, the other thing that I've found is I've really strengthened relationships that, I wasn't expecting to, a lot of it through the Connex community, because people are more open than ever to share. People are more open than ever to take a call from even a competitor and to say, what are you doing about this? And being very open. It's one of the things I really cherish about the Connex community, is that I feel like I've got friends, even if I've never met them, or maybe met them once, that I can pick up the phone or drop an email and say, hey, I just want to pick your brain about this subject. And I've yet to be blown off or turned down. People are willing to hop on the phone 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 45 minutes. And I've gotten some tremendous ideas that we've able to put into play. And of course, I've hopefully shared and inspired somebody else to do something that we were doing. So that's been a real positive in my mind.
That's fantastic, and could not agree with you more. It's definitely opened up a lot of communication, a lot of team building and partnerships. So fantastic. And that kind of leads to the question that Teresa has entered. What are you doing to prepare for this effect on your team mentally down the road in the next 60 to 90 days? What are you doing to keep your teams motivated and positively focused?
Alcohol.
Yeah, let's start. Yeah. Okay, that's a given.
I'll tag on to that. It was the second part of my answer, but honestly,
That's Mandy's standard answer. Let's
yeah. He is kind of right though. So we as much as Zoom has been a great tool, it's also can get a little trying sometimes, especially when you're using it. It feels like 24/7 with both family and work. But we did start doing sort of a weekly happy hour initially with the team, and it was Friday afternoon. It was just a chance to decompress, have a drink, alcohol or not alcohol, whatever your choice, to just decompress a little bit together, talk about, whatever you wanted to talk about. And so, now that we're sort of stores are back open and we're getting back into normal business, we decided as a team that we still wanted to have them. We're not doing them weekly, but it is now sort of a monthly happy hour that we're all doing together. So, and that's been a positive. The other positive is just really coming out of this a stronger team, and to totally lost my train of thought here. But to answer the question, it's really the transparency and communication with the team has really been instrumental in keeping them motivated and frankly, sort of willing and happy to remain with the team. There's just been a lot of trust built up over the last 12 weeks at this point, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, I set up a weekly call. I have a really small team, but and at the start of it, I said, I really don't want to talk about work. I just, I don't get to see you guys. I just want to chat, how are you doing? And on some of those calls, I would, try to be open and honest. Like if I was having a really bad week or struggling, like mentally, like I'm just in a bad spot, like say that, so that they know that, maybe if they're experiencing that too, they're not, the only one who's going through that,
Other than alcohol, I'd also like to add that the one thing that I think that's amazing that's happened here is that you see a lot more humility in everybody that you're dealing with. And the other thing that I feel that my team's very cognitive of, they're a lot more humble than they were. Let's be quite frank. I mean, people are looking around and saying, "Hey, I'm healthy and I still have a job." And the second thing is that, around, both our main offices, we've realized that, the local watering holes and all the entrepreneurs have gotten hammered just like we have. So we're like, listen, what do we love to do more than, do what we do? We like to eat and we like to drink. So we've basically looked and handpicked different restaurants and pubs to frequent, or to order as much as we can from them, just to support them. Instead of, how everybody used to bring stuff in as a potluck, I'm like, you know what, let's dig deep. So we're really trying to help the other entrepreneurial community outside of our ranges to really help them see that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. And I agree with everybody on here. I mean, people truly today, they're picking up the phone now, and you know what, they're taking a breath. So that in itself has just been nice, to connect with a human, not necessarily through a hug, which I miss like hell, but it's really just them being able to see that, you know what, we truly need to get through this together. So there's some good stuff happening.
Miss the hugs and the handshakes.
Yeah.
And I didn't used to be on camera, like for Zoom calls, especially when I worked at TD, I didn't like it. Now I get annoyed if people don't turn on their cameras. Like, I want to see you.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a face and talk to a person.
Yeah. Show me your chiclets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, very well put. And Nike, we kind of do a similar thing. We have a weekly virtual happy hour in the Friday afternoons. And then we have what we call a huddle every Wednesday. And we try to keep the huddle a little more lightly focused. Like today, we ask questions. Do you prefer the corner piece of a brownie, or do you prefer the middle piece of a brownie? And so, just kind of keeping a little lighthearted so people can have a little more fun. And think of something other than either the civil unrest or the COVID that we're dealing with.
Right.
And then also too is just kind of having those, we have a lot of listening sessions. I think a couple of you have brought that up as well, where people come in and they say how they feel. No judgment, no repeating, no input. Everyone just dumps on whatever their emotions are, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent. And that really kind of gets that therapeutic conversation going. And just kind of make you also to give you an opportunity to think of things a little differently, and maybe put yourself in other people's shoes. So that's also been a big help.
Hey, Sean, could I tack one more thing on, since we're talking about
Please,
kind of
sir.
happy hours in the water coolers?
Yeah.
The most popular thing that we did, because, same thing, we were doing the Zoom water coolers, hangouts, happy hours, share a cocktail. And initially it was 80% of the staff participating, and then it was 70, and then it was 60. We were starting to see some taper off.
Mhm.
And to change things up, one of our business development people had a great idea and said, hey, let's do a music trivia competition on the next water cooler. We'll pull a bunch of questions off the internet, and we'll do 3 at a time. Someone will moderate, and then the winners will take each other on, and then it turned into a series. And we got about 5 weeks out of this, where people were into it. They were showing up early. They were trash talking. They were having fun. When they lost, they were slamming off their screens. But it got everyone engaged and got everyone having
You
fun.
were buying them new computers, right?
Yeah, right. I mean, literally, might have bought a few computers. But it really, it reminded you of the personalities that we all have. And that, again, it's that take your mind off of the stuff that's been bringing you down, and reminded us that we're all connected and we had fun together. The reason we all work together is because we used to like showing up and seeing each other every day. It was a way to remind us of that.
Nice.
Great call. Yes, great information. Oh, love it. Okay, so let's go to the Q&A board. We have a good question here from Elena Boone. So for the retailers in the group who were hit hard by the looting activity, we were one of them,
Mhm.
what, if any, reevaluating of your security loss prevention planning are you doing surrounding securing your stores better? Start with Pat.
Sure. So yeah, we definitely got hit hard. Probably had, we ended up boarding up about 215 stores. 54 were damaged, with 39 of them looted, and a number of those pretty severely. So yeah, our loss prevention team is focusing more on different technology with cameras. Most stores have cameras, but just kind of increasing the technology where even, remotely the LP teams are able to monitor each store on their own, as well as looking into different types of security film, whether it's security film or security glass. Do we need to do something different than just, tempered glass with a basic film on it? So, lots of explore right now, but definitely it was a big hit. So
Yes. How about you, Sean?
Really fortunate in that it hasn't been an issue for us. I think all told, I boarded up half a dozen studios. And that was just because of a close proximity, and then they weren't damaged.
Nice.
you are
Wow.
lucky.
Yeah, you are lucky. Exactly.
There's not
Yeah,
a
we
lot
had-
in there to take.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah, we boarded up 50 stores. We had about 12 of them that were accessed or damaged, and about 3 or 4 of them that were badly damaged. The total gut job. We're going to have to start over from scratch and rebuild the stores. And from a long-term standpoint, what we're trying to do is we're trying to better secure our storefronts, whether that's going to be through a different window system, a more secured, stronger window system, whether that's going to be through gates, guards, or all of the above.
Yeah.
So we're working very diligently on that and just making sure we can try to get ahead of this if or when this comes back around again.
Yeah, and I think long-term, as we're designing new stores, new prototypes, that'll come into play when we're building new stores.
Yes. Excellent. All right. We have another good question here from Jenna. As we talked about trying to help with our teams, make sure our teams are mentally sound and positive, what about your higher ups and upper management? Do you think they're equally as understanding and positive and supportive? Let's start with you, Steve.
Positive and supportive to
The teams. So we talked about our teams. What about the people above us? Are they supportive and understanding of us,
Gotcha.
especially in facilities?
Yeah, I mean, I'd like to think so. I know, and I did see that this was another potential question coming down the pike, so maybe I can tie this together. But we really felt like we were, as a construction company, maintenance company, we were deemed essential. So even though Pennsylvania had a very strict lockdown order, we were able to go into the office if we wanted to say, everyone's got to still come to the office, you got to come. But we made the decision to go 100% remote. And then we started putting plans in place to start bringing people back. And rather than just set mandates out, we put a task force together initially of key people on the management team to start those discussions. And then from that, we decided the subcommittee makes sense, made up of non-management folks who can really take the pulse of what's going on of people without feeling like they were being judged by their management team. And so they were sending the surveys. The surveys could remain anonymous if they chose. They were taking the pulse, if you will, of where people were headed. And then we wanted them to come to us with solutions and say, when do you guys think it makes sense? What's the best path forward? We will certainly take all of that under advisement, when we make our plans. And we have actually started our return to the office at a third capacity, but the management team first. So management team and volunteers are the only ones back right now. It's got us at about third capacity in each office, but it's been great because at least the management team's now able to have some physical, body language, actual real communication in 3D. And it's enabled us to lead by example a little bit and say, hey, we're here, we're putting ourselves out here first, and there will be a time to get the next wave of folks in, but we're not going to rush it. That's been our approach.
Excellent. Good. All right. How about you, Sean? How's your upper management and leaders? Are they supportive? And
Yeah, really
Excellent.
supportive. I know that my boss was not a believer in remote working, and now is, and I know that there were folks, above him that were, but very consistently from the beginning, the theme and communication was around, take care of yourself. You have to make sure that you're well in order to perform well. So take time, be cognizant of your productivity, but if it's off, don't beat yourself up. Like don't, I got to work till 10 tonight because I just wasn't productive, because some days you're just not going to be productive because you're experiencing something none of us have ever experienced. So it was a really reassuring message that was consistently and is consistently communicated that, you got to be in a good spot. So take care of yourself so that you can do what you need to do. and don't lose sight of that. So I think they've been incredibly supportive.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. And on that note, Sean, you have a compliment here from Laura. She really appreciates your positive thought of the day on LinkedIn. It brought a smile to her face every
nice.
time she sees it.
Thank you,
So,
Laura.
yay.
That makes
Thank
me
you.
smile to hear that.
Nice. And same thing at Nike. We have very supportive leadership. Same thing. They want us to focus on health, mental and physical, and your family. Always looking out for the family first. And that same thing too. They were very working from home remotely. However, the last couple of months we've been reviewing the data, and we're actually have shown we're being more productive working from home. So they're actually slowing down the processes of going back to corporate, and more than likely we will not be going back through the end of the calendar year. So, which I don't have a problem with that. I have a beautiful view of my backyard at this one. I view the back of my friend's head at the office. So the view's a little better here.
I love working outside on the patio.
Right?
I'm dreading the return of cold weather.
Me too. I might have a different attitude when the cold weather comes back around. You're right. And that kind of stems into another good question here that was entered by Joe. With people going back to work and with some kids going back to school in the fall, maybe not all, how are you guys going to juggle that? How are you going to work with childcare for the schools if your schools are not reopening? Anyone want to take that one? I don't know what the age of your kids might be.
Well, from an age standpoint, it doesn't apply to me. Mine are, teenagers. So if I were going back to the office, and I don't anticipate I will be anytime soon, it wouldn't be an issue for me. Though I know that internally there are conversations going on around that, and I don't know that they've landed on a policy or a fix for it, but they are recognizing now that, there might not be a situation that makes it easy for people to do that. So if so, they just would continue working remotely.
Yeah, I'll
That's great
chime
for your
in from
team as
somebody-
well. Yeah, for your teams as well. How you got to support them.
I
Yeah.
think, seeing where I told you I have fur babies that don't need a daycare. But I can chime in from all of my mums and dads that work for us and with us. There's a lot of stress out there. With them, it's, one of my directors came to me last week and said, Mandy, okay, today's the first day, I take, young Bo into daycare. And I said, great. And he goes, yeah, but any sniffle, any cough, anything, which is what freaking kids do every day, he's out. Right. So it's one of those things that I think that there's a false hope out there, for some parents. And so we're just being, as supportive as we potentially always can be, and eliminating that stress and saying, listen, we're going to work around you. You're going to work around us, and we're just going to make it work together, because I think that stress will hurt their performance too. So being supportive to the mom and dads, mums, dads, whoever, it's extremely indicative of what you're going to see with your teams.
Well, and building on that, Mandy, I think there's a cultural shift that we're going to see, that it used to be a badge of courage to come into work sick, or to come into work even though your kid was sick.
Yeah.
Now it's a little bit like, don't you dare come into work sick, or don't even think about if your kid's sick. Please stay home. That is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Great call out, and so true.
Yeah, and for Gap, my team is a remote team anyway, so we're used to working from home, and even at headquarters, it's sort of a results only work environment. So you can work in the office and work from home even pre-COVID. I think our biggest concern is really at that store level, where those general managers and the associates with kids, how are they going to be flexible with their schedule to, come to work and be a sales associate when you have, no childcare at home. So those are really some of the big discussions we're having at corporate right now.
Good. All right. And we have another great questions. Audience, please keep them coming. We have a question here from Charnette. COVID-19 has increased the demand for PPE and consequently has produced many poor quality or counterfeit materials. So true. Can you speak on how your organizations balance the increase of demand and still spread the risk across multiple suppliers? Did you experience receiving bad quality PPE? Anyone
I
want to
can
take that
speak- I
first?
can speak that. I mean,
Oh,
we,
perfect.
being, having the exposure on both sides of the border, we actually did source to every one of our incumbents just so that we could see the different qualities, obviously pricing for, our customers. And it was interesting to see that out of probably 10 different shipments that we had come in, only one of them really was poor quality. And I'm not even going to go into where that came from because we're just not going to air that over a panel. But the reality is that we personally found that there was a lot of consistency in quality. However, with that, we were able to go back and really tear down the pricing manual that came with some of them, because that's where we saw the biggest issue was the pricing. A lot of, I hate to use the word gouging, but there was, when there was that big supply and demand part, it was hard even for us who had been loyal to different distributors for years. They were like, listen, you've never ordered all this before, and this is what you're going to pay. So we really took the time to source the quality, but it took us a while to get the pricing in line.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we were pretty lucky. I mean, we were able to leverage already existing relationships with a lot of our suppliers. So we were pretty much able to get what we needed. No major quality issues. I think we ran into some issues with hand sanitizer where we were struggling to get it. And then it was sort of like, do what you have to do to get it. So at a local level, when they were doing what they had to do to get it, that's when we kind of ran into some quality issues. And then really Gap ended up making, we're selling masks online and in stores, and then we're making them in bulk right now for like state of California, Kaiser Permanente. So, and they're all good quality. So.
Hey,
Sean,
Pat,
Steve?
buy our masks and you'll get a nice pair of Gap jeans.
Exactly.
Same thing with Nike. We're
Yeah.
making our own mask with the pretty swoosh on the side and everything. But yeah, we had hand sanitizer was our problem. We had a big issue with that one. So we did go to our current suppliers because we've already built that trust and credibility with them. And they went to their suppliers and they supplied us for all of our stores a short-term supply of about 2 weeks, which gave my global procurement team sufficient enough time to continue to keep sourcing worldwide. I mean, we went worldwide on this one. And so they could do the long-term supplies and get them back up and running. So that seemed to be a pretty good balance between the two teams. All right, great questions. I love them. Okay. Okay, here we have one here from Carly. Does anyone, oh, wait a minute, okay. Does anyone have a plan for emergency plans like hurricanes, earthquakes? I know we're working day to day at the moment, but how do we plan for the future, even though we're looking only day to day?
Yeah, we have a.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Sean.
I was gonna say, I mean, it's hurricane season.
Yeah.
So we've only had one conversation about it, but I went through my first one with WW last year, and we made some tweaks, if you will, to the way we did things based off of some stuff that I had experienced before. And, it's FM. So if a store floods, it flooded. So this is what we do when that happens. So I don't know that if we're spending any extra time on that, it's kind of, we've already got it in place.
Yeah.
Do you have any emergency plans in the works for like COVID reclosures on how to deal with that kind of emergency plan?
Yeah, and we announced yesterday we were going to reclose all the studios we reopened in California. And wave 2 reopens that were next week or for California are now canceled. So it's kind of just repeat what we did. Because it's the virtual studio environment is already in existence, so it's pretty easy to pivot back to that. Probably the email communication around that will be better this time because we were doing it on the fly last time.
Yeah, and I
Okay.
think this time around, so speaking specifically to California, now that mandates are out that certain malls do have to close, this time around we're closing but still able to have commercial activity and doing ship from store or curbside pickup where we can. So a little bit of change from initially. And then as far as earthquakes, hurricanes, we already have an existing business continuity planning team. And so it's just each year, refining those processes and make sure everyone's aware of what they are and how to respond. So.
Yes, we did something similar. To Sean's point, it was all emails and text. Well, yeah, we got to clean this store. We got to clean. We're shutting this store down. Maybe where are the shields in the store? Right? And it's constant. But you can't pull reports on those kind of things. You can't determine if there's a common thread or if there's any sort of what the financial impact is on that. So we are kind of stepping back a little bit, and we're looking to set up a process so the stores know how to properly report it, how we know how to properly respond, and then set criteria. What mandates a store closure?
Mhm.
That could vary based not just on governmental mandates, but do we have a sufficient enough staffing to hold a store, to open a store? Do we have sufficient leadership to hold the stores? Do we need to go into a 14-day quarantine? If so, how many need to go into the 14-day quarantine? So it's those kind of criteria with our partnership with HR and legal and with us in facilities, as well as our leadership, of course, to design a very smooth process that seems to be working, knocking on wood, pretty well. And hopefully will hold us for the time to come until we get a vaccine, and hopefully we can move on to a new norm or the old norm, one of the two.
Mhm.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we have a good question here from Brian. What do you see as your biggest challenge or opportunity individually or as a company for the remainder of 2020 and heading into 2021?
Mm.
I'm going to roll out a work order management system, and I can't wait.
Nice.
You're old Manuel, are you, Sean?
Yeah, that'll be a big one.
It can't happen fast enough.
I can say from even a vendor standpoint, it gives us time to sit back and reflect on the things that really need more time, that need, more guidance from different people in the business. I also think that, the opportunities are to take this time and really train people much more intuitively than we probably have before, because it was always just constantly catch up. So these are the different things that, as you have, basically the same amount of staff, you're really able to give them that time. And I see that personally is a huge opportunity, because right now I think it's important that when people come out of this being a little bit more, let's just say, sensitive to the environments around them, that we want them to feel that confidence, going out. And to Sean's or to Steve's point before, we're not just worrying now, because you hear about health and safety. We're not just worrying about people falling off a ladder or, somebody not using a safety harness out on a roof. We're worried about, did the people we subcontract or the people that locally work for us, did they clean that surface properly? Were they using the right materials? It's a whole other different beast and a whole other different liability. So that training, it really is important, going into this. So I see that as a huge opportunity.
Sean, I'll chat. Oh, go ahead, Pat.
Well, I was just going to ask if both you, Steve and Mandy, if you guys are getting, I guess, consistent requirements from the retailers on, what they expect now from the vendors or your techs when they're in stores. So are the requirements the same across the board, or are you seeing retailers doing different things?
Go ahead, Mandy. Go ahead first.
I personally find that a lot of, our longstanding clients have come to us, basically wanting us to adhere to local or, provincial regulations more so than anything. So we've basically taken all that and wrapped it up into a bundle and put a bow on it. I've seen a lot of consistencies with retailers, and, the opportunity for them to really shine in this has been very good. So personally, myself as a company, we haven't seen, too much diversity in what people are looking for or expecting on that level.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen similar, about split down the middle for us early on. About half of our clients came and said, here's what you're going to do. And then the other half came to us and said, what are you going to do?
Mm,
And so, we kind of build a lot of it on, well, here's what we're doing for others. Here's what the state, the states we operate in are mandating. And we try to, like Mandy said, kind of package it up to a bow and make it our program. Speaking to the challenge and opportunity, I think we have a unique business that, from a supplier standpoint, a very unique business development challenge. Many of us formed our relationships with our clients through trade shows and through meeting in person, through breaking bread together. Let's have lunch. Let's do coffee. Let's meet at the show. Let's meet at my booth. And we've developed business development teams that are really good at that. And now we've told all of them, well, you're not doing that anymore. So that's a challenge. Now, the opportunity is we're going to save literally hundreds of thousands of dollars on travel, hundreds of thousands of dollars on quote unquote traditional marketing. So the opportunity is, well, how do you redeploy that energy? How do you redeploy those resources? Digital marketing, we've got to get really savvy really quick, to make sure that we're engaged in the community in a way that's meaningful, but it's digital. And, if we don't continue to be creative, which we like to think so far that we have been, you're going to get left behind, because the old way might not be the way anymore, and we might just have to accept that.
My favorite saying, Steve, is I say to everybody, the world of convenience has left the building.
Yes.
That's what we say.
Yes.
It has left the building.
Yep.
And when you put that in place, people start to realize that the things that they were complacent about before, it stopped.
Mhm.
And yeah, I completely agree. I mean, listen, Steve, you can just send everybody, like I said, a nice bundled box of scotch, and you can have a drink with them and make new relationships. That's what you need to do. I mean, come on, get on this.
All right. Love it.
Oh, I love
Mandy's
it.
playbook, page 2.
Get paid too.
3, 4, 5, and 6. Yeah.
Hey, Sean, so I have, another question for Mandy and Steve, and really anyone on the call here, but has anyone used the smart networking this week with this Connex? I forget what it's called, the Click. Isn't that what it's called? Smart networking?
Yes, my team's been on it and has found that there's been engagement there.
Yeah, personally, I'm going to say no, we have not. But now you've brought it to my attention, and I'm going to look into it.
Excellent. Love it. All right. We have a couple of questions around a similar theme here. So kind of going back to when we do all go back to our offices, or when you go back to your offices, as your corporations, what are they doing to prepare and to protect you guys? Are they doing the social distancing, any different cleaning habits, masks, gloves, those kind of things?
Yes.
All the above?
All the
Yeah.
above.
All the above.
And it's funny too, Sean, because I initially probably wasn't as open to change and frustrated and maybe even in denial to an extent in March. I was the guy saying, oh, if I got to coach softball in a mask, I'm not coaching softball. And if I got to go back to the office in a mask, I'm not going back. Well, guess what? I'm coaching softball in a mask, and I'm back at the office in a mask. When you realize that's your option, and either accept the world you're living in or not. So, I think, again, we're at a third capacity, we're wearing masks, we're socially distant with signage everywhere. We dropped big sneeze guards from the ceiling because we have a lot of cubes. So now people have cubes. Most of them are uninhabited right now, but the few that are, we're ready for everybody to come back. And when they do, they'll find that their cube is completely insulated and protected. The kitchen's off limits right now. We're gonna have to figure out a way to, the places where people congregate. And then, it's one of the things I've noticed in my softball world. Try to keep 14-year-old girls apart. It's very difficult. They are naturally drawn to each other. They want to share. They want to high five. They want to hug. They want to, be in each other's faces and pump each other up. And guess what? It's not that different with adults. adults also are drawn to each other and want to hear about how your day was yesterday or your night was last night, and you want to see up close what's happening. So these are just new habits are going to have to be formed. And again, it's why our management team went first, so we can try to figure out the challenges with it, lead by example, and then when we bring the next wave back, be able to say these are the things to really look out.
Excellent. That's fantastic. All right. And anyone else have any comments or feedback regarding that question?
Well, I'm just going to say that we have the 2x4 6 stick, we call it, you know, being in construction, we just went into the warehouse and we just played on top of that. So we basically have that stick that says, hey, listen, everybody, if you get too close, everybody has a 6-foot 2x4, like literally. And then finally I just looked and I said, listen, you guys never did your damn dishes before. So I just got rid of them all. So now everything in our kitchens are completely environmentally disposable. Cups, plates, forks, this, that. I'm like, if you're going to eat in here, it's all going in the recycling or the garbage. And that way I don't have to worry about somebody washing dishes inappropriately. So we've just streamlined different ways that make people see, keep your distance, because here's my stick. Don't make me beat you with it. And you know what? And as far as everything else, it's disposable. And as far as cleaning, listen, I think that everybody on this call can share, you know, in the feeling that before this virus, there were about 18 that circulated in everybody's petri dish of offices every year. And so for me, we've looked at it as an opportunity to say, hey, you know what, let's keep this virus out and every other damn virus too, so I don't have people off for 2 weeks at a time. Mm-hmm. So we've just kind of, you know, bundled that together too, and just really practiced, you know, a less germ environment, so to speak.
Well, on that end too, I didn't mention, you may be doing this too, Mandy, I'm not sure, but we're doing digital temperature taking as you enter.
Yeah, absolutely.
The building. That, again, that might be permanent for the reason you just stated.
Yeah.
I don't want the flu either.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, we've even taken one stairwell. So one stairwell is used for going up and the other one is for going down.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that is good. That is good. Okay, then we have time for a couple of more questions. We have one here from Jenna. It's a pretty good one too. For the second round of potential closures, what do you see different from your vendors, from your suppliers, to help streamline the service and the communication? And for the vendors, what help could we provide to help this time around? Something retailers can do better, more, or less of?
Well, I think from the retailer standpoint, we're going to communicate better. We've done it already. So there was certainly, you know, at least a couple lessons learned in ensuring that everyone who's going to touch that store or studio gets the word that it's closed. And we're certainly have worked through our hiccups in terms of how we reopen. So, you know, California shutting down again, and when it reopens, it should be significantly smoother from my perspective, my world's perspective, than the first time for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's human nature. There was a lot learned. I mean, across the board, we all learned a lot. One of the challenges on the vendor side, I'm sure Mandy would agree, is that we're used to dealing with bigger teams on the client side than we are dealing with them. So our clients were already overwhelmed in general in our world. And now it's like exponential another level. And so it requires real communication and engagement, patience on both sides. But again, in some ways, it's brought us even closer to our clients. So we're grateful for that, but it's been challenging.
Yeah, it has. I mean, if you look at even one of our clients with Home Depot right now, believe it or not, you know, it's more of a communication thing. Of they've pushed all of their capital projects for the last 2 months for the simple fact that they've made more money than they've ever made. You know, so they said, you know, this is the busiest July and August we've ever had. And they're like, Mandy, are you breathing? I'm like, yes, I'm fine. Thank you. You know, but, you know, from a vendor perspective and from a business perspective, I get it. You know, like I understand that, you know, their VPs and their sales teams are saying, listen, keep your contractors out of the stores. But, you know, it's really just, you know, then we go back and we look and say, hey, how do we take, you know, 26 projects and put them in 3 months rather than 5 months. So it is that communicating much, much better and directly. I mean, and I will, and I'm, Steve, I agree with you that there's a lot of facilitators that we deal with too, that they were overwhelmed before this began. So now they're like, you're just like, are you there? Like, did you wake up this morning? Like, are you, so I think for me, it's more about us also being as empathetic as we can, as a vendor, to give, our clients more energy and, more partnering on an administrative level, whatever we can do to make things go much more smoothly, because it is a transition. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, it's definitely all about communication. For us, previously 80% of the work orders would flow through Service Channel and we wouldn't even be touching them. And now it is where we're having to work on those work orders more closely with the vendor, communicating either hours or access requirements and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then on our end as well, we need to make sure we know where that supplier is. So suppliers got hit hard too with either having to furlough or reduce their workforce. So, on our end, understanding that whether they can support the number of stores that they supported in the past or not, and work with them closely.
I think that kind of ties back to what Mandy said earlier about being humble. It would be my sincere desire that if one of my service partners, had to let go some of their staff and they were really struggling, that they raised their hand and said, I'm really struggling.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to put them in a spot where they're going to fail. I'd much rather they say, hey, let's talk openly about what reality is, so that they don't get overwhelmed, because no one wins if they're failing.
Yeah. Hands down.
Yeah. Very well put. Very well put. And I can add on to is that we've been very fortunate. I mean, a lot of the suppliers or partners that we call them here at Nike, we worked with them I've been with Nike for 15 years, and that's someone we've been working with them the entire 15 years. Mandy, you're one of them.
Yep.
And that's why I cannot emphasize enough when it comes to facility managers, how incredibly important it is to build a strong,
Relationship.
trustworthy, consistent relationship, not barking orders, not, slamming down and treating them with disrespect. Because as I tell people all the time, I'm not going into the stores and repairing the HVAC units and cleaning the floors. My partners are. So, and they're the ones who make me look good or bad, depending on the situation. But those are the, what I'm saying? So that's where, how many times did I text you over the last couple of months, Mandy? And, I'm texting this vendor, texting that vendor. Hey, I need you. I need your help here.
I was like, Sean, stop texting me. I'm busy.
Yeah. Who is this? Yeah. And block.
Yeah.
And Sean, I think from our side, that messaging, I agree with it 100%. I think internally you need to be on point with that messaging to your internal partners, in particular your finance and procurement partners, who, because it's their job, are looking to save money all the time. And it's not always, what you're paying for the service. It's the partner you're working with. So it's not, I like to say, I want the best possible service for the best possible price, not the cheapest. So long term, that's important.
Sean, we're seeing that. I mean, yourself and Pat being clients, great examples of where our teams that we work with in facilities more than ever have gone to bat for us with your own procurement teams to say, listen, we've got a good, strong relationship here and we can get this done quickly and efficiently. Let us keep going down this road. And it's been, again, it's a sign of loyalty. It's a sign of a very strong relationship, and it's appreciated.
Excellent. Wow, gang, this town hall was better than I had forecasted. So huge kudos to our panel. Applause to all of you, your brilliance and your passion for the industry and for making us in retail look so good.
Come on,
So
Sean, you knew with Mandy on here it was going to be great.
Yeah.
Steve, you
Look
know
at
that
all of you.
your Canadian whiskey's already in the mail, son. You don't have to compliment. You know it's in the mail.
Payment is on the way. So thank you all very much for joining the call. I hope you guys learned as much as we did. And please be sure to join us next month for the next town hall. I'm sure it will be just as informative. On that note, I'll turn it over to Carrie. Thanks, everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Stay safe and healthy.
Yes.
you.